Addiction to Purpose with Riches in Recovery welcomes you to our audience. We hope that you enjoyed today's show and will join in the discussion by dropping a review or comment. It would be tremendous if you would like, rate, and share our content, or even subscribe to our channel. Please be aware that not all conversations on this show are suitable for children. Additionally, we may talk about things such as sexual abuse, domestic violence, and drug or alcohol abuse. If you feel that these things may trigger you, please do not tune in. Finally, if you are a heavy daily user of alcohol or drugs and are considering stopping, please consult a medical professional for assistance. Welcome to the conversation. Hi, welcome to another episode of Addiction to Purpose. We're really glad that you're here. Today we wanted to do an episode on Grieving the Old You, and not to be misconstrued with, any thoughts of illusions of grandeur or anything like that. Like, we certainly don't miss our full-blown hitting the bottom alcoholic selves.
Why not? That was great.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Not the fun part of the variety of alcoholic that I'm thinking of. But, for me, this is not something that was really talked about very much, certainly not in AA. I mean, we kind of, you hear the occasional drunkalogue, but...
lots of drunkalogs.
Yeah, but it's not something that's talked about very much in AA, in kind of any sort of positivity about the old you. And then when it comes to, rehab, occasionally, I've heard write a letter to your old self, but, in my experience, it's typically pretty much a FU letter to your old self. It's not something where you look back and, you have anything very nice to say to that old person. And again, this isn't like looking back and saying oh, the good old days, but there were some good old days,
let's face it, we had something that turned into a horrible disease for us, but there was a time when it worked. And there's a time where, especially when you're newly in recovery, like this knucklehead, you think back and you go, man, I miss this. And it's only human nature, to do that. And it's okay to do that. There are times where, you can go ahead and say, man, I had a good time doing this. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this sober. Actually you can. You really can do it sober and have a better time doing it sober, but you might not be in that situation ever again, and the only time you ever did it was when you're drunk. You never know. And just the thing is, you can, like I said, normally I don't grieve a whole lot of the old me. I do some, being 10 years sober, but when you're newly sober, you do grieve some of the old times. Some of the times that old you were, so.
I just think it's pretty relevant, and I'm just interested in kind of talking through it with you, kind of talking through the subject, and kind of in a live, we've talked a little bit about it previously, just before cracking into the episode, but we're really going to talk through it here live. So with that, figure we'll introduce ourselves. Of course, I'm Rich G.
I'm Rich V.
And we are the Riches in Recovery. And this isn't quite a solo cast because we are a duo, so it's a duo cast because we do not have a guest with us this week.
And this is Addiction to Purpose.
Yep, absolutely. So we thought an interesting way to kind of start off this episode would be to approach it with the 5 stages of grief. If we're talking about grieving something that we've lost, and in kind of doing a little bit of pre-work on the episode, in my head, I've kind of determined that this is more like a breakup than it is like a, losing somebody to death or something like that. The person's kind of still there.
Oh, yeah, will always be there.
Right.
The thing is, though, alcohol was my best friend.
Right. For sure.
It definitely was. It was the one that I could always count on. At least I thought I could. That's what I always went to. The problem, hey, I'm gonna have some alcohol. I'm having a great day. Yeah, some alcohol would be terrific.
Right.
Whether it was by myself or anyone else, alcohol was going to be the one to celebrate with. And if I had a mediocre day, well, alcohol was going to be the thing to make it a spectacular day.
You're having a Tuesday. And
the day ends in a Y.
Alcohol, right?
Yeah.
The day ends in a Y, and you're going to have some alcohol. And in talking about this a little bit before we started rolling the episode, we also realized that a lot of the stages of grief are in direct relation to what you battle in the early stages of addiction or trying to come out of addiction.
Come out of addiction, yeah.
Right? So the first stage of grief is denial.
Yeah, I don't got a problem.
Right? And that's so I think we kind of agreed between each other that
I'm sober now. I made it through detox.
Right.
And
so I think we kind of agreed with ourselves that our grieving of our quote-unquote former selves actually started when we first started realizing that, actually I do have a problem, or somewhere in there, right?
Yeah.
When you started denying that you had a problem, but maybe people started telling you that you had a problem.
And there was avoidance, there was confusion, there was fear.
Yeah.
Because that fear, I'm not going to lose my best buddy here. I can't. There's people that wake up all over the world and have 3 beers before they get in the car with their daughter to bring her to school. That's just, people that have a Bloody Mary for breakfast every day. There's so many people like me.
Absolutely. And then on the flip side of that, there are people all over the world who do not.
Yeah, there's people all over the world that will get in a traffic accident and kill themselves.
But looking back, I think I can remember when I was a quote unquote high functioning alcoholic, and some people would be like, I think you might have a problem developing, or maybe you should start watching yourself. And immediately, I'd be like, no, come on, avoidance, the lie, I'd start lying to myself, and then the next one would come out, right? So
I just party like this on the weekend.
Yeah, or no, I don't have a problem. You're just, you're just being sensitive, or you're just blowing it out of proportion.
Yeah, I never miss a day of work. I'm always on it.
Yeah, right? So inevitably, when people would start to point this out to me, the next one would come out, right? So the next stage of grief is anger. Right? And so there would be the frustration, there would be the irritability, and then the last one's anxiety. But I think early on for me, it was a lot of frustration and irritability. It was more along the lines of, don't tell me what to do. You're not the boss of me. Get out of my business.
Oh, the whole thing with me, though, is the anxiety was also huge because, what if they're right? What if they're right and I'm really that bad off and I don't want to stop drinking, I don't want to stop this, I don't want to be an alcoholic, even though I knew I was an alcoholic. I didn't want anyone else to know that. I didn't want to stop being an alcoholic. That's me. That's how I live. It's me and my alcohol.
Right.
And so that was, some anxiety there. How am I going to live without this stuff if I,
Right. And I
can't?
I think for me, looking back, when that anxiety, the anxiety that you're describing really started to peak, I would drink through it.
Oh yeah.
Right. That's how that anxiety would go away. Is that I wouldn't deal with it. Right.
Oh, yeah.
I wouldn't sit in it. I wouldn't practice anything that I practice maybe today to deal with anxiety. I certainly did not go to the doctor and talk to them about anxiety.
I didn't go to the doctor for anything.
No. Because they would ask me how much I drank, and then they'd tell me that maybe that had something to do with it, and then I'd be right back to denial, right?
No, the whole thing is, if I went to go see the doctor, then I wouldn't be able to drink all day before I saw the doctor because they'd be able to smell the alcohol on my breath.
Right.
And so then I'd be like shaking before I went to go see the doctor, and then maybe the doctor would see my hands shaking or something like that. So no, there was no doctor for years.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And then bargaining, I think denial and anger were kind of, for me, when I first started to be told, or maybe even that first little inkling within myself that I had a problem. And then bargaining came once I was like, maybe, I hate to say willing to accept because I wasn't there, but I was willing to maybe entertain the idea that I did have a problem, right? And then I start bargaining, with myself, right? To how can I negotiate this? To how can I maybe drink less? How can I?
Yeah. I tried to set a limit.
Yeah.
Each day, how many beers I could drink. I can't go over this limit. And I almost always went over the limit. But boy, was it cool when I just drank the limit, how much I was supposed to drink. Then I said, hey, I don't have that bad of a problem because tonight I just drank the limit. So, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. I'm cool.
Right.
I'm not out of control. And I made exactly what, I bargained with myself. If I can stick to the limit, then I'm doing okay. I'm functioning. I know I'm an alcoholic, but it's okay because I'm, keeping to my limits.
But looking back, I feel that bargaining became a part of this because I sensed that if I actually had to give it up, then I would have to say goodbye to that self.
Yeah.
To that self, that I would have to deny that self, that part of me that I was connected to. And for me, it was such a big deal. I had really learned to define myself by alcohol over the years. I had taken it on as my profession. I was a certified sommelier, so I was a wine nerd. I sold alcohol for a living. It was connected to my social life. It was connected to my love life. It was connected to my business life. It was connected. It was like Richard the wine guy, was like my identity. And when
all the people you hung out with.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was alcohol and eventually drugs, were very much a big part of that.
Yep, all the people I hung out with were heavy drinkers.
Being that I was very much in the service industry or involved in the service industry as well. I think there's a lot of
drugs.
Well-known fact that drugs are a big part of the service industry, and there was just this whole connection in my life, and so then I had to figure out a way to bargain myself to stay in that, right? Like I had to figure out a way, or at least I told myself at that time that I had to.
It was part of your job.
It was my livelihood. It was everything that I was connected to.
Yeah.
And so trying to accept the fact that I had to give that up just wasn't on the table for me for a long time. And knowing that I had to do that, I think was a big part of what led me. This is well before I even met you, that I was starting to battle this in my head and in my heart. And then of course,
And when I did meet you, you still struggled with that.
Oh, big time.
Very much.
That's part of the reason that I'm still, new guy, right? I mean, I have 5 months of sobriety, and they've been the best 5 months of sobriety that I've had so far. But a big part of what's kept me from being able to get any sort of truly healthy sobriety under my belt so far is not being able to let go of that identity, which now that I've gone ahead and taken, what at one time seemed like a really drastic step, but what, through this last bout, my higher power gave me peace with setting that aside. And so I've changed professions, and I'm on a path to do something different. And I've taken that factor of my identity. It's no longer my identity, being the alcohol guy. It's no longer my identity. You know, my identity now I like to think of my identity as just me, right? It's
just you.
It's no longer tied to anything other than just my genuine self, which feels really good.
Yeah, it really is. And yeah, you could be podcast guy though too.
Yeah, well,
you're allowed to do that. 'Cause you know why you're doing this? Because you're helping people.
Yeah.
So
right.
you're allowed to be identified with helping people. That's all right.
That's
pretty all right.
That's one of the best things in the world I can imagine being identified as, is somebody who's in service to others.
So you work your 12 steps.
Yeah.
You know, you finish up those 12 steps, and that's part of your being.
Yeah.
Is helping others. Boom, 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 boom. Always in service. Always in service.
No question.
Yeah.
No question. To move on through the 5 stages of grief, depression is the next one there.
That hit me hard.
Oh.
You know, that,
ton of bricks.
What do I do? This sucks. I really don't want to give up alcohol. Come on. There's got to be a way to hang on to this. You know, I don't know what to do in life. I've been drinking. I've been drinking like an alcoholic, for a long, since I was like 16, I drank like an alcoholic. I never drank not to get drunk. Ever. Never drank just to have a beer or two. Nah. Never in my life ever did I ever. Yeah. So yeah, I was helplessness, hostility, avoidance. Yeah, I did everything I could.
Right.
My part of my story is when I finally came out and told my family, I was in Hawaii. Yeah. That was Maui, my favorite place in the world. And I was depressed in Maui because I just couldn't hack it anymore. I knew I just couldn't hack being an alcoholic anymore. I could not say one more lie. I just could not keep one more ball in the air. I couldn't, dead inside. I was drunk. I had my fiance with me, and we had gotten in a stupid fight the night before in Maui. Why are you fighting? And I just, boom, that was it. And it was depressing. I'm in the greatest place in the world. I'm not happy. It just anxiety, depression, just everything. Had to give it up. Yeah, it was. And so it hit hard.
Big time. Hard. Yeah, helplessness, hostility, and avoidance. The isolation at the end, right? Yeah. I'm not. I stopped going to bars even when they reopened after COVID. I would barely go out. I wanted to be at home to drink. I didn't want to be around anybody else. And then when somebody did try to call me on my drinking or anything else, it was immediately met with hostility. And then, the helplessness and the destruction that I was leaving, I just go back to the first time and the second time that I walked into the doors to rehab. I couldn't put on my own socks. I couldn't function. It's just, you hit a point of absolute, demoralization. Just, you just really, I can't remember being more helpless because I can't remember that far back to being a child, of can't tie my own shoes, can't function. And luckily you come out of that within a couple of days, but it's just.
You were a mess.
Oh, tell me about it. I lived it. I'm not far enough removed to forget about that.
Everyone's a mess when they get to.
Right.
But yeah, what was I just going to say? Never mind.
So, and then the last one, the last one is acceptance. And acceptance is like one of my favorite words right now, right? When I talk about what I've done for myself in sobriety this year, the words are acceptance and surrender. And that's exactly that's what I've done for my sobriety this year, is acceptance and surrender. And I really like, the other kind of little buzzwords that they had on this are new opportunities, new plans, and moving forward. And I really like the moving forward piece of that because I pick a new word at the beginning of every year. And last year, my word was growth. And I pick it on January 1st. And it's not a New Year's resolution, it's not anything like that. It's just a word that I try to have intention around for the year. And last year was growth. And even though it was still a struggle year for me, I feel like I grew last year.
Plants.
Like that. Yeah, we did the garden thing, which had variable results, but it was about more than the garden. It was personal.
Giving it a go.
And then January 1st this year was forward, was my word, and is my word for this year. And I just love that they attached moving forward to acceptance. And in February, when I went back to rehab, and that first 3 days while I was in there, the level of acceptance, and I still get goosebumps when I talk about this because the level of acceptance and surrender that I hit was completely different than I've ever felt. And and the turning it over to the higher power and the willingness to move on was completely different. And with that, I think that's part of the reason that I became okay with, like, I can give up the job and I can give up the parts of the old me that I was really hanging on to, that I was just had this death grip on that I couldn't let go of, is because of that acceptance that I had finally hit.
I just hear that. I mean, it's one of the catchphrases for acceptance is the key. I mean, it's such a little phrase, but it's such a powerful phrase because I couldn't accept so much of little things. That I just kept going, kept relapsing. Within a 10 period of time, I relapsed a bunch of time, 10-month period of time, and I just could not accept giving it all up to God, and I couldn't accept that I just so many little things, and I sat down and in the sun and looking over a pasture and it clicked, just accept it. Just accept it and see what happens. Just accept it. And boom, life started getting better. Just instantly, life started getting better. And I could move forward. I could make new plans, but, I had to learn. I had my sponsor telling me, everyone, you've heard it one way or another. You can make a plan, but plan the outcome. That's because I was always big on making plans. My father always made a plan. And he always had to have a plan. And so he taught me that always make a plan. So I'd always make a plan, and if it didn't work, I would just be pissed. I would get drunk over it and all that sort of stuff. And the sponsor told me, "Yeah, you make a plan all you want, but you just don't plan the outcome. You plan the outcome. That's when there's so many variables that can happen because you can plan all you want, but you're not God. You're just not God. God has." He figures out what's going to happen and kind of giggle at your plan when he hears it, and he goes, "Okay, this is what's going to happen." But you get a plan to make yourself feel good, make yourself feel like you have some control over it, but yeah, just accepting that I don't have the outcome for everything, accepting that I can make a plan. I don't have to have the outcome, just I can get myself moving and pointing in the right direction, moving in the right direction. And yeah, accepting that I didn't have to have everything on my shoulders. I can go ahead and put it on God's shoulders. Yeah, that was the best thing ever. Best day ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it feels pretty good that, to have a plan, but to know that your only real responsibility lies in just the next step.
Yeah, your actions.
Right? Just take the next step. And then if
the
for
next
some
right
reason
step.
the plan that you had is foiled, that's okay. Just adjust and take the next step. And so on and so forth. And you'll cruise through life.
Yeah.
You know?
Take the next right step.
So that takes us through the 5 stages.
Yeah.
And then we had a few other questions. You wanna start?
I'm going here.
All
right. Rich, can you reflect on a time of experience recently where you noticed that you had to act differently than others in a setting because of your addiction? So a time recently where you had to act differently than others in a setting because of your addiction.
Sure. Yeah. Recently, we attended a memorial for a friend, and this one, parts of that question are like, what would you have done before?
What would you have done before? How would you?
And how did you act differently? So I'll just kind of cover it all in one chat, and first off, before there was a open drinks at this gathering, right? And I was able to go ahead.
Well, yeah, we know what you would have done before.
Yeah, right. So before I would have come in and got after it, right? And got after it from the very beginning. And realistically, I was never the type to make myself unrespectable at the front end of something, but where I would have ended that night would have probably not been a positive thing, right? Throughout the event, I would have kept it enough together. I would have got going, but then as the night went on, whatever bar we went to, and I'm sure that I would have been the encourager behind whatever bar we went to, or bars, then it would have been on. And I would have ended the night more than likely making an ass out of myself, right?
Would you have remembered that the next day?
No.
Yeah.
No. And that it wouldn't have been a good way to honor my friend or the family that I went and visited, or anything like that. And
so you definitely can't mourn that a whole lot, can you?
Right. No. Right. I can't miss that, that part of it, I certainly do not miss, that aspect of myself where somebody looks back and says, well, yeah, do you remember what Richard did at this? I don't, will we even invite him next time?
Yeah.
Or even if they do invite you next time, what's he going? He's going to be a wild card, What maybe we cut ties with him after that. Maybe we don't let him know where we're going afterward. Anyway, just all of that reputation that follows.
Maybe just beer and wine at the wedding and not have hard liquor there.
Right. Yeah. I mean, just all of that reputation that follows you. For me, though, I was able to just be there and be really present with my friends and with their family, and be really present with the people that were speaking, and really listen to the message that was being carried about this wonderful person that I knew, and then continue to connect with people afterwards and give them well wishes, and as opposed to slur something meaningless to them, just really connect with somebody, look them in the eye, let them know, what it meant to me to be there, and, that I was listening to them and that I cared for their situation, and just really able to connect with them and make it meaningful, as opposed to this, passing by, meaningless, sorry for your loss, give me a hug, okay, I'm going to hit the bar thing, So it was just a way more meaningful experience because of that.
Yeah. That reminds me too. I hadn't thought about this in a while. Right early sobriety, best buddy passed away from pancreatic cancer, and just a great guy, and he had a Catholic service for his memorial, and then real nice reception with an open bar, and Catholics, they do some good drinking, and I was buddies with a bunch of the buddies that he was friends with, and they were all pounding the beers, and they kept offering me, and no, I don't drink anymore, and I got a lemonade, and I got to be there for his wife, and people that his sister, and stuff that were grieving, and stuff, and be there for them, and his buddies were just getting drunk, and it was different. I kind of wanted to be one of those guys getting drunk because I missed my buddy a lot, and I felt, a lot in here. But then I thought, man, it kind of feels good to feel that in here and to be able to deal with that in here instead of being drunk like these guys and, saying, look, hey, here's another one for him, and hey, and stuff like that. And, I got to be my true self and deal with my feelings, truthfully, so I could, start getting over my grieving then and there, and so I started helping his wife help with the grieving, and his son, who was in the same class as my daughter, and, give him a good hug and tell him, if anything he needs and so forth, and that's what I got to do early in sobriety, and I did not grieve my old self then.
Yeah.
It showed me how nice it is to be sober.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
That just jumped in my head. Had to tell the story.
Perfect.
You know how it goes with me.
Absolutely.
I start telling stories, I can't stop. Yeah, go ahead. What do you got for me?
So one for you. Did you ever miss your old self, or is that still something that comes up for you once in a while?
Do I miss my old self? Yeah, a bit. And it's not as much now as before. When I first started, we all, when we first start getting sober, you really miss your old self. That's what gets a lot of people to, relapse. Is, they think they miss their old self. Because they're not the same person anymore. I used to be the life of the party, and now I'm drinking a lemonade. And I kind of miss the guy that I'm a fairly shy guy normally, and I got to take a little gearing up to go ahead and be social and so forth. I'm the type of guy that stays back a little bit and doesn't get social that easily. But when I was drinking, boom, I was Mr. Social. I was walking, 18 years old after being in Hawaii, after being on the booze cruise, and I'm in the middle of the bus singing "Do Wah Diddy Diddy Do, Dum Diddy Do," and all the kids on the bus are singing it with me as I'm walking down the aisle. That kind of kid. Really obnoxious young man. But I thought I missed that guy. That was fun when it worked. When alcohol worked. But that led to the alcoholic that didn't work. And so the question is, what do I still miss?
Or is that still something that comes up for you once in a while? I mean, I feel like that.
I miss that guy that didn't have a whole lot of inhibitions when he was drunk.
Yeah.
That was kind of fun, and I really enjoy being the guy who's sober, watching the idiot who's drunk, because that's a lot of fun too. Just about as much fun as it is being the idiot who's doing it. So,
yeah. I mean, I feel like I feel like I was a bit the same, I'd be the guy that was louder and more boisterous than everybody else, no question. Yeah. I have many friends that would vouch for that statement. And it's funny, though, I find two things today when I go to a social gathering. Number one is if somebody that I know or have known for a while gets onto the subject of me being sober, I always find that their interest is completely piqued in the concept.
Yeah.
And usually people are like, that's really cool that you're sober. I should probably try that. And they want to talk about it, you know? So I do think that people have an interest and a curiosity about what it is to be sober.
Yeah, I really thought about doing that at one point. I don't know how many times I've heard that.
Right, yeah, or you know, or you get the explanation of how they take a month off every year, which is also great. You know,
so many times you hear that.
If you're a normie and you take a month off every year, that is awesome, and I am not knocking that. That is wonderful. You know, that's you know, if you manage your own life and you've got a good relationship with alcohol, there is nothing wrong with that. The other thing that I've found though, because I am still an extrovert, like I still very much kind of get my energy from being around people, and I do like to talk in front of people and
in the right situation
do this type of a thing. But I do find more and more that when I'm in a group or a gathering, I do kind of like to grab that person in which I share interests with and like go to the side and have a meaningful conversation with them, as opposed to be like in the party, you know? That's more so where I want to fit in, unless we're playing games. Then I want to get in and play games. But if it's just more of like a you know, talking party, hang out and talk, like I want to find that one person and kind of like carve off and go have a little chit chat or a small group, you know?
Yeah, and the fact that you're having the fun time being in the game and everything like that, you're not really obnoxious. You're having fun and encouraging people to have fun.
Right.
Not being, hey, I'm really great.
Yeah.
Everyone look at me.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. It's not self-centered, right? Yeah.
All right, what's the next one we got for you? All right. If you could go back and talk to yourself when you were making your first attempt at sobriety, what would you say to yourself about the subject of becoming a new person and leaving the old self behind? I didn't read this question before, and that's bogus. Because, you know, part of getting sober is learning, is making the mistakes. So you don't want to go back and tell yourself, you know, what, I don't know, of becoming a new person, leaving the old self behind. You know, it's got to be in the experience, you know, because if you went back and told yourself that when you were just about to become sober, you know, anything about becoming sober, then the experience would be different. You really have to experience doing
You're really playing like Back to the Future here, Michael J. Fox. Like,
I know. It's just,
I mean, don't step on any butterflies, right? Come on, man.
Oh, don't step on any butterflies.
No, it's fine. You can feel your feelings. I'm just laughing.
I understand your question, and you got to understand my point of view.
Yeah.
It's just it's getting sober. You experience so much. You learn so much by getting sober.
Right.
That people can talk to you all day long about, you know, what you're going to experience. It's just you got to experience so much to learn how to become sober personally, that the experience is, you got to go through the experience to learn how to do it. And I mean, yeah, but you can answer the question though.
No, I'm going to answer my question. First off, I'm going to say to y'all out there that I sent him these questions like 3 days ago. Plus, he sat and read them before we started.
I did, but I forgot, it finally soaked in because we were sitting there thinking about. I was thinking more about these questions now, and all of a sudden I went, "That's why this question was bothering me before. That's why it was bugging me, because it was kind of sitting on my craw. And now I figured it out. Oh, that's why it was sitting on my craw. Yeah, sorry. We actually do love each other.
Oh, we do love each other, and you know,
we don't have to always.
Sometimes you
Get
have
along
to
great.
have to really soak the hardest ground before anything's going to penetrate. So, you know, just anyway. So you know, the reason that I asked that question is because if somebody's in early sobriety and they're struggling with this,
Mm-hmm.
what I would like to communicate to them is just to be kind to themselves.
Yeah,
And
you're right.
what I think I missed early on is that people don't value me for what I was. They value me for what I am. And so it's actually a very simple answer. It's not something that I'm going to go super deep on. Although maybe that is a deep concept, but it's you know, for me, that hitting acceptance, I mean, obviously it is a deep concept because it took me 3 years to get there, right? Yeah. But for me, I realized today that my value is not in who I was. You know, the very little, there were things to value of that person. There were strengths that that person had, but that wasn't who I am. You know.
Yeah.
So that's the reason that question is there, is so, you know, for somebody who's maybe in early sobriety and maybe somebody who might be struggling with this and struggling with an identity that they feel is very linked to this, that I've just come to find out that the people that I really want in my life and the people that really want me in their life don't give a damn about who I was, and they don't really, they miss me. They don't miss what I can do for them. They just miss me.
Yeah, they love you for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's really what I wanted to communicate. Yeah, you accept that question now.
Sorry, buddy.
That's okay. That's okay. Rich is over here. Get off my lawn, you know.
Get off.
All right.
I was looking at it too deep.
Sure.
I was looking too deep into it.
Well,
you
like
know
I said,
I'm a pretty deep guy.
You went very Back to the Future on me there. You know. So I've got one more for
this one down, guys. It'll be 5 years from now. He'll go, remember on camera when you totally dissed me? You know.
So I've got one more for you, and that is, do you think you consciously noted that you were grieving your old self? And was there anything in particular, a time or moment that you recall when you reconciled your old self with your new self? So that's kind of a two-parter. So
you consciously noted that you were grieving. At first, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. You know, I definitely consciously noted that I was grieving my old self. I think we all. I can't speak for everyone, so sorry. But yeah, I wanted to be able to go party. I wanted to have a 6-pack of beer in my golf bag. You know, while I was playing golf. You know, I wanted to be able to do all that. You know, but and was there a time in particular or moment that you can recall where you reconciled to your old self with your new self? That took time.
Yeah.
You know, it really it took practice to reconcile my new self and my old self. Yes, I gave it all up to God. You know, and I said that's how I gave it all up to God. But that takes practice. You know, it takes practice, because you can't learn something immediately. You know, you have to do it, and you know, so you have to. I mean, I had to constantly play around a golf without a beer, and realize I don't miss the beer. I really don't. I had to watch the Giants win a World Series without a beer, and realize, man, it's so much more fun watching it this way. I remember all the stuff that happened in the game. But this is so true.
Right.
You know, a lot of stuff you gotta go through and realize that you don't miss it. I mean, concept wise, I didn't miss it because I knew it was in God's hands. I mean, I knew that in my heart and everything about me. But, you know, you still are kind of selfish, you know, because, you know, it takes a while for us to lose that because we are alcoholics. We didn't go from 1 minute being the most selfish human being in the world, being an alcoholic, and then not being.
Right.
You know, you got to work at that a little bit, you know, and so you had to learn how to get rid of all that selfish stuff. You know, it's still working on your character defects, even though you give them all up to God. You know, you still got to work at giving them all up to God, and so there wasn't a complete time. It just, you know, every night when I go to bed and realize, you know, and work on my 10th step, you know, every night, just I figure out what I did wrong, who I need to make amends to, what I need to make amends to, and I get better and better at it every day, you know. But um, that moment though, when I first gave it up to God, when I really, really, really did, and that moment was so important to me. You know, that's when I that's when I really didn't. That's when I was able to put my old self behind, and that's when I really, really wanted to do the work. That's the point. I mean, if you want to get one point, the fact that where I really, really, really want to do the work, when I really wanted to do the third step as it was supposed to be, that's when I started not missing my old self.
Yeah.
That's when I really wanted to be on God's path.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and I mean that's kind of how I feel about it. Is, you know, this last time in February when that was kind of the flip that switched, and then all you know, everything else that you mentioned is super valid, right? I mean, but that's all just kind of like maintenance work around that core. Right. You know,
yeah,
that's all the stuff that'll never go away.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like your character defects and your need for a 10th step and your need for prayer and meditation and helping others and all of that stuff. That's just forever. You know. But you know, that kind of initial of like, there it is. Like I've let it go.
That
you know?
weight feels good when it comes off.
It's
man.
just, I just know that, you know, 1,000-pound gorilla off of my back. I just felt that like physical release.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
It just,
yeah.
Those of you who felt it, it's just one of the coolest feelings, you know. And those of you who are, you know, in the process or thinking about it, or once you get to do it, it's just, man, it's such a good feeling. Then all the pieces start coming together, and
All right, so you want to just go into our final three?
Sure, let's do it.
Okay, so first one is there anything else on your mind or in your heart that you'd like to share with our audience today?
Not nothing on my mind. I've been yapping about so much other stuff.
Yeah,
I've been spewing it all out. Cool. Did I talk about my friend about the air guitar?
No. You want to tell that story real quick?
Yeah. Well, talk about blast from the past. You know, I started going about thinking about this show yesterday, and I don't even know if I should talk. Anyway, it was fun. Yeah, yesterday. This talk about past and so forth, and I had an old buddy from high school. You know, been friends since we were in elementary school, and yesterday I was driving along and a rock song came on, and I'm 60 years old, and I decided to pull out the old air guitar and the headbanging, and proceeded to do that on the road. And I got home and I quickly texted him. I hadn't talked to him for couple 3 years, and I just texted him, asked him if it was okay to be 60 and still headbang and air guitar while I was in the car. And I hadn't talked to him for years, and he replied that, well, absolutely, it was okay, and he didn't care who was in the car with him. And so we're talking this weekend and so forth. But it's just fun being able. And I used to party hardy with this guy all the time, and I know he's sober now too. And so so it's just kind of fun being sober, being able to do stuff like that. I don't know, it's just silly stuff. But I don't know why I wanted to talk about that, but it's fun.
Yeah, no, you had mentioned that to me earlier. I think that's funny. So the next of the three is in the spirit of progress, not perfection. What is something you've been working on lately?
What have you been working on lately?
Let's see. Something that I have. I added yet another book to my morning reading.
Another one.
Yeah, so
boot camp every morning.
Right. So I added the Bhagavad Gita, which is it's a Hindu book, and it's similar to what you might think of with like the parables of Buddha and things like that. It's a book that it's not a Bible or anything. It's actually more in like a story form, but there are parables and kind of things to live by in that book. Life lessons, if you will. So I've added that in as part of my morning reading. Kind of a little idea. I've mentioned to you before, Jay Shetty, and he has the podcast On Purpose. So he's mentioned this text many, many times as something that they studied when he was a monk. And so I decided I'd order a copy and start thumbing through it. So
nice.
Just added that into my journey of enlightenment.
Very cool.
Yep.
Hey, if you guys hadn't done it yet, check out his shorts that he puts out. Some great stuff. Some really great stuff. It's had a lot of hits, and but just check those out. I was looking at them yesterday, and I went through them all again, and they're just fun stuff. Yeah,
thanks.
I love those things. All right, and I want to answer this last question. So, what's the greatest gift you've been given recently by recovery? Well, I've been given a couple great gifts from recovery. The one I have now is my daughter's pretty cool. I don't know if you watched any of these episodes before. I talk about her all the time. But yeah, you're laughing.
You do mention her once in a while.
Every once in a while. She's a really cool person, and I used to drive drunk with her in the car every single day, and every day. And it really could have killed her driving along like that. And the world would have missed out on someone. And she is marrying her partner next April. And some things I always asked her to be the best person she could possibly be, the best Abby she could possibly be, and then I'd be a happy man. Well, that's what she's been doing all her life, and so I told her, I want, if you get great grades and worked hard at her music, I would help her get through college, and that's what she did. I saved the money I spent on alcohol. I saved that money between her grants and scholarships, and the money I saved on from what I spent on alcohol. That plus a little bit help from a home equity line of credit, that got her through college. And I promised her I would, and I came through. I mean, I couldn't have done that if I wasn't sober. No way. I was way too selfish. All that money would have gone on alcohol, and she would have had massive student loans that she would have had to pay off because I'd still be a drunk. I'd probably be face down in the gutter. It just anyway. That's probably who knows what would have happened. It's God's decision, but anyway. But the one recently though is that my daughter is getting married to her partner next year, and I told her I would pay for half of her wedding if if she continued to be this amazing person, and she's continued to be this amazing person. So I'm able to keep my promise and pay for half of her wedding coming up next year, and hopefully her mother and her side, the other side, can pay for the other half of the wedding. I'm hoping they're able to, but I'm able to keep my promise to her and able to, no matter how much wedding's going to be able to cost, and I'm going to be able to pay for half of it. So yeah, that's a pretty nice gift to be getting recently.
That's pretty good.
Yeah,
that's pretty good.
Yeah.
I feel really fortunate. I was given the opportunity over this last week to help a friend of mine, and part of that is a result of the show.
Yeah.
He had seen that you and I had started doing this show and was having some struggles in his life, and since we had been posting this show and he and I are friends through Facebook, he felt comfortable reaching out to me, and that was just a really awesome experience. And so, but it kind of I got it like tenfold, because I had things going on in my own life, and I had things going on with my pets and with my wife and helping him and different things, and I was able to do all of it and walk through it with peace and serenity and calmly, and just take each little step at a time. And when I would meet a roadblock, I would just adjust and make the next phone call and really seek the next solution without getting upset or stressed out or anything else, and just stop and say a little prayer and decide what the next step needed to be and make that little adjustment. And all of that is because of sobriety. The show's because of sobriety. Being with you is because of sobriety. And being able to be present and help another person that is suffering is because of sobriety. And so all of that just made me really grateful. And
you really had to jump through some hoops to help him out too. This wasn't.
Yeah.
It was not an easy task.
Well, and yeah, but even though it wasn't easy, like it still, I didn't make it hard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The me. Actually, we're talking about the old me, right? The old me. There are parts of the old me that would have made this a freaking terrible experience, right? Get upset, talk bad to people, and get bent out of shape, and tell people how horrible they're being. But no, like, I just stayed nice, and when I would get a no, I would just, okay, well, I know that you did what you could to help us, and we'll just go here, and I would just readjust, and didn't have to get upset or angry or frustrated the whole time. And
probably because you being like that person made sure that bed stayed open.
I feel like those things, I feel like karma is a thing.
Yep.
I feel like what you put into the world, you get back from the world.
Yep.
And even if you don't get it back from the person or entity that you're giving it out to, I feel like it comes back to you. And so I just feel really blessed in the fact that I was able to be there and be present and be available to help this person. So,
I mean, that's the reason we're doing this is, I told them from the start, and we agreed on this, if we could help one person stay sober for one day, help. I mean, there's a lot of different things that go into it, God and friends and everything like that. But if we could be a part of one person's day to help them stay sober, then everything we've done, then it's all worth it.
Absolutely.
And so this has all been worth it already. Yeah. So the rest of this is all gravy, what we're doing from here on out.
Absolutely.
So it's all gravy.
Yeah.
So we got that going for us.
Yeah.
Which is nice.
It was a really big reward.
Yeah.
It was a really big reward. So that made me feel really good. I definitely it's not my victory; it's his victory, but it was just a really great confirmation for me to be part of it.
Yeah, God rocks.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. So with that, that's the end of this episode. Another fun episode for us to do together.
Yeah.
And I would like for everybody to help me congratulate Rich on 10 years of sobriety on August 16th. So if you have a moment, I would think it would be really awesome if you could just drop a little kudos to him in our comments section. Thanks again for another great chat and for being my friend and my sponsor. Love you a lot, my man.
Love you too, buddy. That was fun.
If you have any questions about today's show or anything else recovery related, please feel free to reach out. All of our links and avenues of contact can be found in the description of this episode. Thank you to my man Rich.
Thank you, buddy.
And to our audience for being part of my sobriety today. Thank you so much for giving us some of your time. We really hope you got something out of today's episode. We would be honored if you would like and share the episode or leave a review or comment with your takeaways. Don't forget to subscribe to tune into future episodes. Have a great day.